this episode, Bond. James Bond toys.
Hello everyone, and welcome to a very top secret episode of In the Toy Box. My name is Kevin, and with me as always is...
I'm Matt.
And today we're going to be talking about James Bond and James Bond toys. So Matt, why don't you start us off with what you have in front of you?
Okay, we're going to talk about Sean Connery and how he starred as the first James Bond in the first 6 James Bond films.
Right.
His James Bond was exciting and had a lot of good things in the movies. He started off with Dr. No, From Russia with Love, Goldfinger, and all those 3 films, I think it's just like each one gets better with the next one.
Right, I agree.
And with Goldfinger, you have Odd Job, which is the, that villain that throws a hat. You have the Aston Martin DB5, which is James Bond's car and has all the gadgets.
I love that.
So it's a fun film, and I think the films and the toys are fantastic. And because of the movies, I think it generated so many toys.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, there was an original 12-inch Sean Connery Bond figure, correct?
Yep. And the Aston Martin DB5 was a toy back then, too, in the 60s.
Awesome. And these are newer, not new, but newer versions of that?
These are newer, like within the last 20 years.
Gotcha.
Type of new.
And that's from Sideshow Toys, these 12-inch figures that we have in front of us?
Yes.
Awesome.
Yep. Sideshow Toys made James Bond James Bond action figures from many of the films. Not all of them, but you have Sean Connery from Dr. No in front of us. They made different versions of him. They have the villains. What's good about these is you get a 12-inch figure with cloth clothing, accessories, and the box and the packaging is excellent.
It's fantastic.
I mean, the covers on each of the box represent probably, I want to say, they're almost like exact replicas of the movie posters at that time.
Right.
For each of the films.
Yes.
So, and then moving on, we go to the third James Bond, which is the third actor who portrayed James Bond, Roger Moore. And he did the most films in all. He did 7 films.
Yeah, and like when I was young, I always thought of, Sean Connery as being the first Bond because that was the first one I was shown as a kid.
Me too.
And I fell in love. But I think as I get older, I like Roger Moore, his personality as Bond a little more. They all have very unique personalities, each different Bond.
They do.
And as you can see in front of us, we have Roger Moore in his Moonraker gear. So he's got like a spacesuit on. Detail's incredible. Face looks just like him. And just like any other Bond, he also had a fantastic car, correct?
Yep, the Lotus.
Lotus Esprit.
That's
and,
right.
And then he has the villain, and 2 of these movies is Jaws, correct?
Yep, played by Richard Kiel.
And I think we have him behind us.
Yeah.
And what I like about these figures is they're not just 12-inch figures, they're 1/6 scale. So they try to make, Jaws a little bit bigger. So when you put the figures side by side, it's like you can see Jaws kind of towers over 007, which is really neat.
And we also have, from The Spy Who Loved Me, these 2 action figures in front of us again. Roger Moore as James Bond and Richard Kiel as Jaws from The Spy Who Loved Me. And they represent, I think, the opening scene where Roger Moore has the ski suit on and he also has the parachute.
Love those opening scenes,
Yes.
lots of action.
Yep.
And these are done by Exclusive Premiere, did you say that?
Exclusive Premiere, who made other James Bond films, but these happen to be some of the nicer ones.
Yes.
The packaging I like on these as well. The back of the package actually has full color photos of the film Spy Who Loved Me. Other packaging that this company did, they had like a cylinder type
Exactly.
thing.
It was like a half cylinder, like a half moon.
I don't care for those.
No, it's not my favorite. This display is excellent. You get to see if there's any accessories. It does come with a stand. And it's a really nice way to display a figure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the 2 first Bonds, 2 of the best first Bonds.
That's right.
Sean Connery and Roger Moore.
Sean Connery was the first actor to portray James Bond in a feature film. His suave, debonair, sophisticated, and no-nonsense style captured the interest of viewers and fans alike. The very first villain Connery's Bond faced was Dr. No, who was part of an evil organization known as Spectre, which stands for Special Executive for Counterintelligence, Terrorism, Revenge, and Extortion.
Sean Connery's Bond matched wits with Spectre in all but one of Connery's Bond films, which was Goldfinger. This film featured Connery's Bond at his best, with the Aston Martin DB5, the masterful Goldfinger villain, and his henchman Oddjob. Bond joined forces with Miss Galore to defeat the Goldfinger plot. In Thunderball, Connery's Bond sported underwater gear.
Sideshow Toys provides us with an accurate description of many of these Bond characters. Sean Connery was the first James Bond, and many fans regard him as the best James Bond. It goes without saying, his Bond will always be number one.
The most famous James Bond vehicle is the 1965 Aston Martin DB5, which made its first appearance in the film Goldfinger. The Aston Martin DB5 was so popular that it appeared in multiple James Bond films, including Thunderball, GoldenEye, Casino Royale, and many other 007 movies. Sean Connery, Pierce Brosnan, and Daniel Craig shared the movie spotlight with this car.
Corgi Toys produced one of the earliest Aston Martin DB5 toys with various functions, ejectable seat, machine guns, and shield. In 2004, Joyride produced a more detailed version of the Aston Martin DB5 with removable roof, doors that open, detailed interior, hood that opens to reveal the engine, the trunk opens, rotating license plate, pop-up shield, and machine guns. There was also a British Secret Service remote-controlled Aston Martin DB5 produced for 007 fans.
Since James Bond vehicles were so famous, Corgi, Johnny Lightning, and Hot Wheels produced other cars seen in the 007 films, beginning with Dr. No and continuing to Casino Royale. Enjoy the ride. Roger Moore was the third actor to play James Bond. His style included a self-confident, charming, intelligent, sometimes serious, and sometimes humorous James Bond.
His first appearance was in the film Live and Let Die, and the evil T.He made multiple attempts to dispose of James Bond. He once tried to feed James Bond to a group of alligators.
In The Man with the Golden Gun, James Bond went head-to-head against Scaramanga, portrayed by Christopher Lee. Scaramanga was a high-paid assassin who wanted the challenge to have the ultimate duel with the famous James Bond.
Roger Moore's third film, The Spy Who Loved Me, was probably the most memorable of Moore's Bond films. The hired hitman Jaws met up with Bond several times that it becomes humorous. Jaws was played by Richard Kiel. Sideshow Toys captures the likeness of both Jaws and Bond. Toys by Exclusive Premiere also featured Jaws and Bond from The Spy Who Loved Me. Seen here, Jaws has his metal teeth, and Bond has his winter gear and parachute from the opening sequence of the film. And finally, who can forget Bond's car, the 1976 Lotus known as the Wet Nelly. This car was pursued by a helicopter that wouldn't quit. The Lotus then drove off the end of a pier and transformed into a submarine. How awesome is that?
For Your Eyes Only featured the Lotus with a new color and also another vehicle that Bond drove, the Citroën 2CV, a classic French automobile which Bond and Melina Havelock used to escape from Hector Gonzalez. Roger Moore appeared in the most 007 films, 7 in all. Clearly he and Connery were notably the best James Bonds to date. And now we're going to talk about other James Bonds. So in 1987, Timothy Dalton took over the role of James Bond from Roger Moore.
Correct.
Roger Moore had done 7 films. It was time for a new Bond. He was the new one. A much younger Bond. Living Daylights and License to Kill were the next 2 films that Timothy Dalton did. And his Bond was a little bit more subdued. And I think his first film was the better one out of the 2.
Right. It's more refreshing to see a younger Bond as opposed to seeing, more, doing these stunts. You kind of can't really believe that may be him. You know what I'm saying? But he was a decent Bond.
I liked him. I liked the first film.
Sure.
And again, with all the Bonds, he had his signature car, the Aston Martin Volante, which was a little bit different than what we have in front of us. It was a little more, I want to say a little more sporty, whereas like you had said before, that the DB5 is a more classic
car. Yeah, it's a classic-looking car.
Yeah.
So which number Bond is Pierce Brosnan?
Pierce Brosnan is number 5.
Okay. And we should note the second Bond was George Lazenby, right?
George Lazenby.
Yeah. But they did make a toy of him, but we didn't have him, so we decided,
And they did make a movie too, but anyway.
Yeah, but that's true. So Pierce Brosnan was in 4 Bond films?
Pierce Brosnan was in 4 from 1995 onward till I think like 2005. He did the next 4 films.
Goldfinger to License to
GoldenEye.
Oh, GoldenEye, I'm sorry.
GoldenEye.
Well, how did I forget that? They had a video game and everything.
That's right. GoldenEye to his last film, which was Die Another Day.
Die Another Day.
And his Bond, I find very similar to Roger Moore. His style is similar to that. He has the humor that Roger Moore would have. I think he was trying to find a balance between the Sean Connery and Roger Moore James Bond. I think that's what he was trying to get to.
I would assume it's hard to step into a role and not look at the predecessors and you know what I mean. How do you do that?
Yeah. And then his car, he actually brought back the Aston Martin DB5 from the Connery films. It was actually in Pierce Brosnan's first 2 films.
That's awesome.
And I think he was just kind of like driving around with it. He didn't really, none of the gadgets were used or anything.
Oh, darn.
So, but it was just cool to see that car back.
It pays homage.
And then in 2006, a new Bond came out, Daniel Craig, and he is the current Bond right now. And again, the Aston Martin DB5 is back.
Right.
So this car in front of us has appeared in approximately, I want to say, maybe 9 007 films. And that's counting the one I think that hasn't been released yet.
So it's been a star in more films than the Bonds have, than the actors have.
It has.
Wow.
And all the James Bond, everyone, Sean Connery, Pierce Brosnan, and Daniel Craig have shared this car on the 007 films. And Roger Moore actually drove the car too, but not as James Bond. He drove the car in the Cannonball Run.
Okay. Yep.
So the only one who didn't drive it was poor Timothy Dalton.
We feel for you, Tim. So this Daniel Craig figure in front of us is actually what we call kit bashed, correct?
Yes.
And it is a kit that you buy, and what's the name? It's the manufacturer?
Loading Toys.
Loading Toys. And it's just a head sculpt with
Clothing.
With the clothing, yep.
And
they,
accessories.
right, and then they tell you which body to get.
Yeah.
You know, you can just buy that online and snaps it all together, and there you go, Daniel Craig.
Yeah, and that's it. Yeah.
Yeah. Now he actually wears this sort of getup in some of these movies.
Yeah, he doesn't.
It's more of like a.
Yeah, I mean, you see him in the tux in the movies, and he also wears some like dress down clothes. So you see him in some, everyday clothes as
Gotcha.
well. Yeah.
Yeah, they did a decent job with him. It looks good.
Yeah, and in this particular clothes that he's wearing, it kind of like reflects some of the movies that he has more of like a rougher look,
Yep.
and his movies are more like prequels to the 007 films.
They're darker, and I think they're a little more gritty. He's more like a rough and tumble Bond.
Yeah, but they kind of explain like where everything comes from, like where he came from, where the car came from.
Gotcha.
It's just more origin stories.
Yep.
Yeah. Timothy Dalton is the fourth actor to take on the role of James Bond. In The Living Daylights, Dalton's Bond was provided with a new Aston Martin, the V8 Volante. This car featured rocket-launched missiles and skis for winter conditions. In License to Kill, Bond faces Franz Sanchez, portrayed by Robert Davi. Dalton's Bond was refined and polished, yet he could take on the challenge of being James Bond with his own style.
Following Dalton was Pierce Brosnan, who appeared as James Bond in the next 4 films, beginning with GoldenEye. Pierce Brosnan set the tone as an eager yet reckless James Bond who was betrayed by another 00 agent, Alec Trevelyan. He also faced another villain, Xenia Onatopp, who strangled her victims with her thighs. In Tomorrow Never Dies, Michelle Yeoh's character Wei Lin aids James Bond to defeat the villain Elliot Carver.
Brosnan found his own style of James Bond with his last film, Die Another Day, in 2002, with co-stars Halle Berry as Jinx and Rick Yoon as the villain Zhao.
From Casino Royale to the present 007 films, Daniel Craig has appeared as James Bond in 5 of those films. With Daniel Craig's Bond, you get a rougher and more assassin-like Bond that has to be shaped and molded by MI6, the organization that recruits James Bond as the agent we know to be, 007. Welcome to another custom toy segment, and today we have some 12-inch figures that are representing James Bond.
That's correct. We found a company back in the 90s called Kid Connection. They were an inexpensive company, kind of like a G.I. Joe knockoff. They put together these 12-inch action sets, and we found this action figure that coincidentally looks like Sean Connery.
Pretty spot on.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty.
It's him.
Yeah, someone had him in mind.
Yeah.
So we thought at the time, well, there weren't any James Bond action figures available.
No.
I mean, there were vintage ones
Right.
that were unattainable. There was nothing new, so why not create our own?
Yeah.
So first thing was we needed to get some clothing.
Right.
So we went to Bobby, who has been around for years, and the Ken and Bobby line. They sold tuxedos for Ken, and we were able to get plenty of tuxedos back then.
Different versions, like a black one,
black
a white one.
Yep, white. And so what we did, it was lucky because they did fit on this guy, this particular body. On a G.I. Joe, they won't be able to fit on the G.I. Joe because G.I. Joe is a little more muscular.
Gotcha.
So So that's what we did. So this guy originally came in a 2 Action Man spacesuit, and what we did was we got rid of all those accessories, put him in the tux, and then created our own accessories, whether it be weapons and that kind of thing.
Yep.
And the theme of it was, let's create some of the different Bond films. So we had him, how he looks like in this particular box. I wanted to represent the first 3 films, but how he looks when in the gun barrel opening sequence.
Right.
I kind of have him posed that way as well.
Gotcha. Yep.
Then moved on to another one where he's wearing the white top tux, and we kind of accented it with a Corgi Aston Martin.
Looks great.
And then we went further and we said, well, we found this G.I. Joe, different character. He's not, G.I. Joe himself.
Right.
But I mean, there was different characters along the line, and he kind of resembled Robert Shaw's character Grant
The villain.
in From Russia with Love.
Right.
So we kind of put the clothes that would kind of look like him and accessories, and we put them together and made a From Russia with Love set.
Looks awesome.
And then finally, we did a set in tribute of Thunderball. And what we did was, instead of going with the tux, we went with a diving suit, a shark, and some other accessories. And we made the Thunderball set. And this is all pre-Sideshow Toys. Sideshow Toys didn't exist at this time. I think they were like late 90s, I think, Sideshow.
I thought they were early 2000s.
Okay.
But it could be wrong. It could be late 90s.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So these were before that.
Yep.
So this is what we had. And later on, Sideshow Toys did end up putting a Thunderball set out, but no shark.
No shark.
Yes. But
These look great. You got a lot of accessories included with them. The box, what you did with the labeling, and even the ones that have the plastic case, like that box. It looks awesome. The display looks really good.
Yeah.
They look like toys you could buy off of a shelf.
Oh, well, thanks.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Yeah. Well, I tried to do the best, and even some that, like with these, the plastic ones, I ended up finding James Bond photos and,
Yep.
and pictures of the car, and we kind of use that too as
Yeah.
part of the packaging.
They make nice backgrounds. And
Yes.
It just looks awesome. Yeah.
So what we ended up doing was taking a inexpensive action figure from Kid Connection, and we made our own James Bond series of action figures.
I love it. We all know the name James Bond, but how about James Bond Jr.? Jr. is a would-be spy and nephew of 007. Originally a novel in the 60s that later spawned a cartoon and toy line in the 90s. The 6-inch figures from Hasbro featured multiple versions of James Bond Jr., along with friends, villains, some of whom have familiar names, vehicles, and even spy gear. The movie Mission Impossible spawned a small run of figures in 1996 that focused on the main protagonist, Ethan Hunt. The company Tradewinds Toys modeled Hunt in different costumes and included a small latex mask to disguise Hunt as a senator or even a fireman. This would allow a spy to gain access to otherwise impossible areas in their mission. McDonald's celebrated the release of the movie Spy Kids in 2001 by including a spy accessory in every Happy Meal. These toys included a head-mounted camera that squirts, a noise-making motion detector, a stylish spy watch and spy phone, a pair of spy-approved sunglasses, a nifty spy disc launcher, a spy pen, and more. Whether it's a figure or an accessory, if you choose to accept them, the mission of these spy toys are for you to have fun. Were you able to retrieve the game?
Yes, boss. I'm on the way to deliver it to you now.
Excellent. I want you on high alert for Bond. He's probably hot on our trail.
What is it, Moneypenny?
Bond. The rare version of the Scrabble game has been stolen. We suspect it's Golden Tile. One of his henchmen was seen fleeing a local toy store and is currently in your vicinity. We need you to find him and get the game back to its rightful owner. We'll send you coordinates of his suspected location.
Where's the game?
Golden Tile has it.
Where's he?
He's inside.
Thanks, Jack. Golden Tile. The game is over.
Actually, it's just begun. If you want the game back, you'll have to play me for it.
I like my tiles shaken, not stirred.
I'll start us off. Mayhem. I'll use my gold tile to replace that ordinary one. With that, I know that you need to use all 7 of your tiles to beat me, Bond. And I don't think you can do it.
When would you learn? Crime is a game that always loses.
No!